Okay, this is Miracle Painting and Remodeling, Miracle PRC. We're at the Chelsea's house right now, and we decided to take the glass tile all the way up and give it a cut right here, an angle there. We've wrapped it all the way around. We spent some time at the granite store yesterday at Top Solid Surfaces. They're really good people over there. And we got some 45s cut. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this really heavy piece of granite on there. And I had to sift through their scrap pile, and they were gracious enough to polish it up for me. But when we get done, it's going to go sit right there very comfortably, and it'll glue on. And I just think that is phenomenal. I mean, look at the color grades. They come out so nice right here. I mean, with these colors here, let me bring this over here. So if you see that, wow, what a great match, wouldn't you say? And also with this tile right here, they can't lose. So I wanted to be able to do that for the Chelsea's, and we were able to. That's a good thing. So unfortunately, even though these are a checkered type pattern, you know, and mosaic, it's not as easy as you think to lay, because you got to make sure that they don't line up. Like, I'll give you an example. There is one that lines up, which I was unhappy with, but had little control over because of the shelf spot. I just have to find it. There it is, right there. So it disappears into the background, and you don't see it that much, but we want to prefer that that doesn't happen. So now we've pretty sure we've gone ahead and cut that on the piece. So what we did here, this is basically how you lay it. Now, when you're doing backsplashes, you have to pull out the plug a little so it sits behind it. Make sure that you can put the screw back in. Sometimes you can order spacers or get spacers from Home Depot or Lowe's, but this is really an unnecessary thing, because as long as you can get to the screw here, into the screw here, and you can put the tile behind that, then you're really good to go. Now let me get one of those little tiles so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, so here's a good one for example. Now, as long as you can fit that tile under there and you don't obstruct the screw, which is very, very close, that's going to brace it up against the wall there. So what we have to do with this one, though, is take 1/8 of an inch off, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. So I've already cut this piece right here. We're going to go ahead and put that on. Yep. And you see they're not lining up with the big squares, the little squares. You don't want that. Now you got to be careful. You got to try to keep these lined up. So this one's a little too thick. Now I like to use little paper spacers with these. There's no reason to have to go to the store and buy spacers when it's not necessary. But when they're sagging and moving around, you have to make sure that you try to keep them as evenly as possible, because with mosaics, you will notice. And so you also want to make sure that in between each one that you have a little spacer in here. These will be really easy to pull out. They just basically disintegrate when you go to grout. So that's what you want to make sure that you do. So let's see here. And about every 3, you want to make sure that that works. And then, so if you have any sagging of any kind, just make sure that you line everything up to the best of your ability. Now when it's grouted, you will not notice this much at all, but you still want to try to make it right, because on a wall they will sag. I mean, keep in mind it has a mesh backing, so you want to try to stretch it as much as possible. Never be in a hurry with this stuff, ever, or you will find that it will walk on you and you'll be like, what happened? You definitely don't want that. You want each square to be individual. Now, see this one here is a little low? You just move it up like that. and you push it in tightly. This one's a little high, you move that one like that. Okay, so the goal is to keep each line. See, this one's a little low, and you just move it up like that. Now don't worry about this. This will come off right with a rag. Not a problem. But you still want to pay attention to that. Be as diligent as you can about keeping it adjusted. Now once you get it to a certain place, it will stay there pretty much on its own. So, but you do it by moving a little at a time to get it to stay in place. So this is your attention to detail. This is where this comes in. And if you don't do this and you rush through it, you'll be sorry. And so will the customer. So, still have a little sag on this one. We want to make sure that we keep that from sagging too much. Way to solve that problem is we just take a little piece right here. And we'll just do this whole little three area section. Okay, because that way we'll eliminate every possibility. And it doesn't take long for wall mastic to dry, especially with mosaic tiles, because you have more airflow behind it. So that's how you do that, and then you just, without taking out the spacers, just kind of wipe that through. Now you'll have to go back and shave some of that off, but that's not such a problem. You just take a little knife, any knife really, and just kind of scrape it through, and it will come off fairly gently. And then depending on what grout you use, whether it be white or gray, that'll be the amount of energy that you put into getting it perfectly off. And then you'll be able to just sponge off the difference when you're grouting, because grout is more porous, so it'll take some of that stuff out of there as you go. So that's what we're doing here. I'll go ahead and show you the rest as we go. This is what it looks like, one wall. It ties in real nicely into this corner, and it will essentially wrap right around beautifully. That's Miracle Painting and Remodeling, Miracle PRC. Thanks to the Chelsea's, I'm able to show you what kind of work we can do. We also got this rounded off smoothly. Now you're gonna find when you go to Home Depot and Lowe's, if you get you don't go to a tile store, a specialty store, what happens is they're orange on the back. So, clay color. So when you cut the tile, you see that color. Now who wants to see that color? Nobody wants to see that color, am I correct? Nobody wants to see it. So there's very easy ways to do that. I'll tell you how I did this. Okay, stone is porous, which means I can take a black magic marker, believe it or not, take a black magic marker, and I can paint this. I can just brush that on, draw it on, right? And then I let it sit for a minute, okay? Then I can take whatever color matches. Now in this case, I use gray spray paint. Now you might say, this gray spray paint is gonna come off. Well no, this is car spray paint. Now, and this is porous. So whatever, the goal is, where's that sanding block? Okay, so the sanding block, right? So here it is. You let that sit for a minute. Then you sand off all the excess. It doesn't matter if you, and sand on this. It doesn't matter that you're going to get it on the tile, because this is a sanding sponge, so it's not going to take any off of the finish off. It's just going to take the excess off. By the time you're done, whatever comes off, that's all that's going to come off. Period. So, and then when you put the sealer on, you have nothing to worry about. So that's a very easy way to fix the solution, create the solution that you're looking for without having to worry, well, I've got orange around here. Now, I also took a grinder with a grinding disc, and I smoothed this out all the way around and gave it a beveled edge. That way, the family doesn't hurt themselves. I took care of all the sharp points on here, as you can see, all the way around. It's all very smooth. That's the difference. That's the difference between a regular tile setter and somebody, or maybe somebody who does this all day. Who knows? But doing a little extra to make things better goes a long way. So this is Miracle PRC, Miracle Painting and Remodeling. You have a wonderful day, and thank you very much.